This is Voice of Republicans TV, where you hear Republicans talking about the issues you care about.
Welcome, everyone, to Voice of Republicans TV, where we bring you politicians, activists, candidates straight to you with no slant. Please like and subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode and you're always getting the latest Voice of Republicans updates every week. This week, we're joined by two guests: Christopher Anderson, who's running for Baltimore City Council in District 7, and Eugene Boykai, who's running for Baltimore City Council in District 12. We'll start off this evening with Christopher Anderson. Christopher, it's good to see you.
Good to see you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Let's jump into it. Chris, you're a Baltimore native, U.S. Coast Guard veteran, and lifelong community advocate who seeks to become the next city councilman for District 7. Chris is a natural leader who regularly attends New Shiloh Baptist Church in West Baltimore. Like many Baltimore residents, Chris wants real change in City Hall. He plans to address the rampant corruption, cronyism, and inefficiency in our city's government, in addition to advocating for Baltimore's most vulnerable residents. Let's just jump right into this. As a candidate for City Council in District 7, what do you see as the most pressing issues your constituents face during these times?
Well, the most pressing issue constituents face right at the time is crime, especially in District 7 in Baltimore City. Also, on top of that, we have a high opioid crisis that's the highest in the nation right here in Baltimore City, right in my district. There are two issues on my platform that I plan on combating soon as I get office on day one, ready to serve, ready to lead.
And that's what Baltimore needs: someone ready to lead, not ready to just take the office and keep it warm and continue to let the status quo continue. So Baltimore definitely needs someone ready to lead. And it's refreshing and beautiful to hear you lead with that. If I could follow up on crime, Baltimore's on track to surpass 200 homicides this year, along with the last 5 years surpassing 300 every year. How would you address this differently? What approach would you take to combat the homicide epidemic that's really going on in Baltimore and bring that crime rate down in your district, as far as violent crime, homicide, and really all types of crime?
Um, First of all, crime in my city, my district is at an all-time high. It's always been. I plan on in my first administration adopting a crime plan called a Democratic crime plan of Thiru Vignologis. This crime plan will end the bloodshed and drop the crime rate, which in 1 year we're doing. It's desperate times calls for desperate measures. Wiretaps on gangs before the summer shootings start, so we'll know who to arrest. A spy plane in the area that will get voice recognition and face recognition of the people actually committing the crime, so we can actually solve some murders in the district. I think doing stuff like that, implementing stuff like that, and the Root Vigna Rogers crime plan will reduce crime in Baltimore City within 1 year, and actually deter crime for future generations, where people will not want to do crimes because of fear of reprisal and getting arrested from a spy plane and wiretaps.
What potential roadblocks would you see once you're elected and you take office and you're having to the mayor and the other city council members? What potential roadblocks would you see to being able to enact that plan that might be coming from other members of the council?
I think it's going to be roadblocks. First of all, I don't think they want to solve the crime in Baltimore City, which can be easily solvable. I just said it can be solved in 1 year. I think I'm gonna get a lot of roadblocks with uh, career politicians that want to profit off the crime and make money off of us in the district and make us a charity, continuous charity over and over again. Whereas Republicans wants to come in with solutions. But I plan on giving them an olive branch and reach across the table and actually work with them and not against them. I don't want to battle back and forth with the Democrats. I want to actually make a difference. I want them to make a difference as well. It's going to cut their corruption and their money that they're making off the people in the community. But they're gonna have to play ball with us. They want to solve the problem. We got the solutions, and we're the only party with the solutions.
Now, policing is in a national spotlight right now. It had been in a national spotlight in Baltimore not too many years ago as well. And many around the country and many in Baltimore City as well are calling for defunding of the police. despite these high crime rates, despite these high homicide rates. Um, how do you rid the streets of corrupt officers and make sure that it truly is the good officers who are on the streets in Baltimore, um, while also making sure that they are funded adequately and making sure that they have the resources they need so that they would be able to restore some order and help bring down the crime rate in Baltimore?
You see Eugene boycott over the shoulder. But I think that we need to make incentives for police officers. We need not to be defunding the police, not right now, desperate times. And I think right now we have a collaboration program, which I am in Baltimore City. I'm the only candidate that's in this district. I'm in a police collaboration program with Baltimore City as well. We need to bring back to the community. I think we need to bring back faith-based initiatives and guard to the police station and let them know where their comes from. Once we do that, and once we work with the community and bring back trust in the community, we can build a new police station, hire a new incentives, and make it a community worth living in for the constituents and the police as well.
Wonderful. I want to touch on going back again to 2015 and then something that also relates now to 2020. We saw the vandalism, the destruction in Baltimore in 2015 after the Freddie Gray incident. And now we saw recently on a smaller scale, but it still matters in 2020, the Christopher Columbus statue that was torn down, dragged into the harbor. How do you, once you're elected, how do you bring an end to this kind of destruction? Is it because of a lack of opportunity? Are there different factors that you would address? This is combated from all angles.
The torn down the statues, I wrote an article about it. It's a failure of leadership. The current Democratic leadership, which they call it a Democratic stronghold, I call it a Democratic chokehold. People are not leading at all. We need opportunities. The opportunities funded through the opportunity zones that this current administration have put in District 7 in Baltimore that need to be funded by the Republican administration. It doesn't need to be blocked. Opportunities will come in once they are funded by the opportunity zones that are put in with this administration. I plan on funding those administrations. I plan on overseeing those administrations. I plan on tracking the money that comes into the district and making sure they get to the people that most definitely need it.
Awesome. State Attorney Marilyn Mosby said that she will prosecute federal agents attempting to protect federal property in Baltimore City. Yet she is unwilling to and selectively does not prosecute certain crimes, such as low-level drug offenses. What would be your response to Marilyn Mosby? What would your stance be upon taking office?
I think Marilyn Mosby needs not to engage with federal officers. I think that's a big mistake. I'm not working with federal officers that's coming into the city. I think that the not prosecuting low crime is a COVID issue, but we need to solve the COVID-19 crisis first together, to work together with her and not against law enforcement, to make sure the citizens are safe first before we combat low-level criminals and federal officers. We need to make sure the citizens we come first before we even address such measures, such as drastic measures as fighting federal officers.
You led us right into the next topic and my next question regarding COVID-19 and the ongoing pandemic. While the school year is nearing, many have said that they do not want the children back to school in fear of kids getting sick or spreading COVID-19, bringing it home to parents and grandparents after school. What would you say to those parents, and what would you do to protect kids while making sure that they can go back to school safely and get the education that they need in a school building this fall?
Well, I'm advocating for us to go viral and go virtual. Go virtual first before the school year starts. We need to think once again. So I don't know why we can't just do Zoom, the teachers and the students together. The teachers go back to work. We can open up and pay them if they're on Zoom, and the students can stay at home and check in at a certain time in school. We can actually do it all on Zoom, and then We can reopen the school buildings if we follow CDC guidelines. I notice a lot of businesses are not following CDC guidelines. Spray the schools, make sure they disinfect, and make sure all children coming into school, teachers as well, have.
And it leads me to another question. From what we're seeing with the pandemic going on in not just Baltimore City, but around the country, around Maryland, and around the entire country, it will still be going on when you take office. We will not have solved this. Businesses will not completely be back to normal yet. Is there anything right now that the city council is not doing or specifically doing wrong that day one you would jump in there and put a change to a different direction as far as the city's response to the pandemic?
Yeah, day one, I would, first of all, this city, we don't have that much COVID in our zip code, so I think the city is actually taking some positive stance. We're under our Republican governor Hogan, who's doing a great job with the COVID response. I would add to it. I would add to the response of mandatory mask situation for everybody in Baltimore City, especially our mass transit. For some reason, mass transit is not adhering to the CDC guidelines, and most of the poor people in my district are riding mass transit, and that puts them at risk. I think we need to have a mandatory mask put in place, and I think we need to have essential workers only on mass transit. I think our greatest risk, and that's what I would combat as soon as I get into day one. I think our greatest risk is the poor people that ride mass transit.
Wonderful, thank you. As we wrap up here, is there any final words, any final parting message you'd like to leave with our viewers about your race and about your district and what you'll be bringing to Baltimore?
Yes. First of all, you can reach me at Chris Anderson, Chris Anderson 2020.com. Also on Facebook, Chris Anderson 2020, and Twitter, C Anderson 2020. I just want to say, don't be afraid to vote. Don't be afraid to vote different, Baltimore. If you want something different, you have to vote something different in. On day one, I plan on addressing the opioid crisis. On day one, I plan on addressing crime. On day one, I plan on fixing the schools. Never do I want to see another child sitting in a school without proper heating and proper air conditioning. That is a money problem. The current Democratic leadership is taking the money. I want to make sure that money, I want to track that money. I want to do comprehensive audits of all the money that's coming into City Hall. And I want to make sure it's held accountable. People are held accountable for fraud and corruption. And I want to make sure that money comes right back to the people in the district that the money is supposed to go to. That's what I'm about. That's why I should be the next councilman of District 7. And that's why I want everybody to know that they need to vote for me. There's no other candidate that actually can do that. I can actually track that money, call for an audit, and make sure that it gets back into the hands of the people in the district and not be stolen by crooked politicians. And I'm not a career politician, and I'm not going to do. I'm going in there for accountability. I'm bringing God back to the community, and I'm bringing accountability back to the community. I'm building District 7 back up from the ground back up to what it's the glory that it used to be. Make America great again, and make Baltimore District 7 great again as well. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Christopher Anderson, for joining us tonight. Again, Christopher's running for District 7, Baltimore City Council. He just told you how you can reach out, how you can connect with the campaign and contribute as well. So thank you, Christopher, for joining us, and we will be right back as we continue Voice of Republicans TV after this break with Eugene Boykai.
This is Voice of Republicans TV, where you hear Republicans talking about the issues you care about.
Welcome back. We are back with Eugene Boykai, who's running for City Council, District 12 in Baltimore City. Good evening, Eugene, and thank you for joining us on Voice of Republicans TV.
Thank you for having me.
Everybody, Eugene is a proud father of 4 and a blue-collar community member who has devoted his life to building a better District 12. He has worked predominantly in construction and has devoted much of his free time to volunteering in Baltimore's East Side neighborhoods. Eugene regularly mentors youth in the East Side community in addition to supporting District 12's elderly residents by taking on minor construction projects in their homes. Man who loves to give his time to helping others and is now looking to serve District 12 and moving District 12 so much needed help on the Baltimore City Council. Eugene, let's dive into it. With the city millions of dollars in debt before COVID-19 And now many shops, businesses closed for months on end, and we're not sure when some may be able to fully reopen because of the pandemic. How do you legislate a budget that's going to be fiscally sound, fiscally responsible, even before the pandemic? There were issues with this. How do you address this now in this pandemic era?
Well, unfortunately, we're in the arena now of those what we call unforeseen circumstances due to Corona-19. We are at the point right now that we have to make tough decisions and realistic decisions. My main concern is always going to be my district, because that's the area that I'm familiar with, and that's the area that I'm asking the voter that I want to represent you. So realistically, one of the issues that I want to address is I want to get out there and make sure that I take care of things like that. We are in the negative. Due to COVID, there's a lot of grants that's passing through, but not everybody that are properly getting those grants. So with us being in a deficit, I want to have a surplus. The only way to do that is to have a realistic plan of opening up the businesses. One of the things that I'm doing now and that I want to do is to say, look, I understand we have a pandemic going on here, but the numbers that you're calling out is not really reflecting on what's going on district. Once again, I'll say this: I'm a open up America type of conservative. You know, we all have our choice of whatever game we want to play. I want to open up America, but I also believe in having people have the choice. So I'm going to go to these business owners, talk to them more, go to the resident, as I've been doing, and speak to them and let them know, listen, we can either give you grant that will have you stay at home, which I think is having a negative effect, or we can put up a system that will give grants for you to go to work if you choose. So my belief is, in order for us to have a surplus, we have to think realistically and have these tough decisions. We can't do this by staying at home. We need people out there working to create revenue. And the way to do that is community. It comes down, community empowerment, getting down to the ground, talking to the businesses, talking to owners, you know, talking to the everyday working person that are struggling every day. I'm in my district, from the working class to the lower class. I see so many people. COVID is not it's the last thing that they're worrying about. They're out there, they're grinding, they're trying to do the best. So I said, okay, what you're doing already, all I want to do is be able to expand on that. We have grants. Your housing, if we pay we want to set up grants that's going to go to resident. If we can pay your housing for 3 months and talk to employees for them to hire you to come on, that way we're giving resident the choice to go back into the business part and start to create revenue, which we will start going into the surplus instead of having a negative, focusing on the negative budget.
That's amazing. And, you know, day one taking office, you know, will still be the midst of this pandemic. So to have a concise, clear plan like that is great and refreshing to hear. And I'm sure it would be a new idea to many on the council already. Let's address some of the crime and the violence going on in Baltimore. With the homicide rate being what it has been, setting yearly records, seeing all-time highs. How would you address this? How would you combat this in a way the council maybe hasn't to this point? And what steps would you take upon taking office to bring that crime rate down in your district, and specifically addressing those violent crimes?
Okay. I'm actually taking those steps now. I don't feel like I should just be in office before I start to get to work. I'm already on the ground setting those things in motion. And once again, I'm not going to talk as a politician, but I'm going to talk as a resident. Saying me to be that politician to represent my district from my observation of what I've seen. Crime is a major problem. We all know that, but the Democrats seem to have no type of solution for that. One problem that I see, do you know who's doing most of the crime? The Black Americans, Black youth from 18 to 25. So as a father, I have already started to make the initiative to say all these kids are now mine. You have been neglected. You have been neglected. You have been neglected. So I'm setting in programs. I'm talking church members because I put the responsibility of the genocides that's happening with these kids out there is to take it down there. I bring the church. I have 5 churches in my district, and I see more funeral than I see wedding. So I'm holding the church accountable, and I'm putting out all the stunts to say, look, that 501 that you're used to, you keeping silent, it's time for you to work for it. It's time for us to get these youth and start creating programs. Not just saying we want to put a budget down for them, but actually being active within their life and give them a reason to live. Why is that important? I know a lot of people try the trade school before the give the grants, but this is the problem. A lot of these kids are uninformed of it. A lot of the people that so-called community leaders, they are absent. So a lot of the people I talk to, I'm on the ground. They have lost faith in their government, and they form some kind of hope in me. So because I spoke to them. So that's one of the ways that I want to address crime. I have a long-term plan by being community empowerment, by involving the community, by involving the police officers, by involving everybody. Instead of a divisive approach, I want to have a unification between everybody, and that's not going to take just a policy. That's actually going to take getting on the ground, talking to people, forming a relationship, because you know what? Even if we can change the mind of 2 young men within that murder rate group and have that direction point somewhere else, then we start saving. That's one life that wouldn't have been killed today. That's another life that wouldn't have been killed 5 months from now. We have to put in realistic plans and be able to have the energy to have the resident believe in you, not setting down policies. Policy is good, but it's also to show the resident. So dropping crime is getting into the community and see who's actually doing these crimes and how you can relate to them. By having a male figure to say that I care, I want to create a new avenue for you. I don't want to just put a drug clinic. No, I want to grab you before you even get on drugs by giving you a mission and saying you're it. So that's one of my things to reduce crime. Because once you reduce crime, then once again, get back to negotiating with investors wanting to come in and bring in jobs. With jobs come what? Revenue. So that's my biggest thing.
And you touched on 2 very important things there that I want to circle back on. Part of it, you said, involving the police officers. We asked Chris earlier in this episode the debate about the defunding of the police, and we've heard that sentiment around the country. We've also heard it to an extent in Baltimore. This kind of stance of defunding the police while also saying that somehow we need them better trained and better equipped, while also wanting to strip their funding. As a city council member, what would your stance be here, and how would you involve those police? How would you make sure that they're adequately trained and funded so that they do regain trust in the community, and also they can really carry out their job as they need to?
This is hope, right? Once again, one of my platforms is community empowerment, community involvement. So plain politics, the fiscal year brought in, the police department had $530 million in budget. 1,700 of it is supposed to go into new technology. So Brandon Scott came in and said, we're going to cut 22 million. Okay, 22 million, that's just, I guess that's just for political stunt because it's not going to affect that. It don't. But it's just the idea of the disrespect and the police. And a lot of people agree to say, oh, there's 22 million. It goes to this, to that. No. The police have to be, look, when every time a police come out there, they're putting their life on the line. They're putting their life on the line. They're doing something that I'm not doing. And they're putting their life on the line. Their family, leave their family not knowing what they're going to come back for. You know, so we already have police budget. Touching the police budget? No, absolutely not. Defunding, that's not even in my language. I will not defund the police. I will not. I do not support defunding the police in any kind of way. Now improving community and police, yes, that's what I'm already doing. If you notice in my district, that's what I've already been doing. Even through this COVID-19 thing, I always thought ahead. I introduced myself to the police officers, master sergeants, to come together with a plan. We have a substation within my community in District on the street. And one of my concerns was that I spoke to the sergeants that you guys came within our district, but you did not let the public know. The resident had no idea that was the station. So it's stuff like that that we have to break the gap and start having the police involved with the community again, taking it back to school. The funding that the police do have, I mean, they have enough funding. I'm not going to touch it at all. I won't. I want to make sure that they have everything they need within that budget in which we have. Within our budget in which we have, I want to make sure that it's being, some of those budgets are being spent on making sure officers are involved with the communities in which they are patrol, because that is so important. You know, I remember days when I was younger and there was an officer used to come to my house. And because I knew him, because he knew me, he knew my mother too, that every time a cop, when he passed by, even when boys, like some of the people I was hanging out with, you're like, oh man, this cop. I was one of the first to say, nah, he cool, yo. That's my man. And I'll go up to him. Okay, you okay? Yeah, I'm good, man. You know, talk to them. See, with people saying the cops involved, it forms a family, it forms a relationship. So I think all that is great. I would get with the cops with make sure the community and are not just screaming at each other, but finding ways and means to work each other. The cops came to my house the other day, grab a, you know, I'm not gonna put them out there, you know, but it's stuff like that is important because it's forming relationship. People on the neighborhood, they're not saying, oh, he's a snitch, he talking with the cop. No, they understood that I'm running for city council and they already seen the cops stop once in a while. So the cops now is forming a relationship with some of the people on the block. So that is so important that we not just talk about budget out there, because the Democrat has had budget galore, whether surplus or even in deficit. They have budget like no other. But the problem is that budget being used in an effective way? And that's my whole game plan as city council. I'm running for city council, but because it's time to bring everybody back together, man. It's time to stop sitting behind the desk and actually getting out there, setting the example, asking the people, what do you want it to be? What is your problem? What is your struggle? Getting out there to resident, getting out there to the business, putting the business and the resident together, putting the rich, the working class together, joining forces with the blacks, joining forces with the white, just people. I want to have a prosperous community. That's my main thing running for city council president. Bring the community back here.
And you said something very important there about there's no lack of funding. There's never been a lack of funding. There's always plenty of money that is going into Baltimore, going into the government in Baltimore. It's just, is it being used wisely? Is it being used fraudulently? Is it being abused? Is it just being thrown at things that just continue to not work? One thing that sticks out in my mind when you mentioned that was the schools in Baltimore. And we've got a pandemic going on, and it'll be left up to each county and each school system on how to reopen. But I wanted to get your thoughts there and what you could do as a city council member as far as making greater accountability in the school system in Baltimore City, because we know that's where so much of this starts. If kids have structure and a good education, all those strong foundations growing up, that will carry with them long after they've left school. What can you do as a city council member to really make sure that that strong foundation in school is intact and that the dollars are being spent wisely for the public schools in Baltimore?
Okay, so we put together the budget for the schooling. Now funding there. I think it's over 300 and something $million put together for the school. This problem I have with that. Once again, you have to forgive me. I'm an old school conservative Republican. I believe in choices.
Yeah.
All the funding. One we have $500 million we going to school, yet 0% rate. Our students are passing. Why? Because the Democrat has set up a system that is not, it produces nothing. Not only it does not produce the correct type of revenue, but you cannot sustain those type of ideas long term. That's the problem, long term. So we have to get back to reality. We have to get back to fiscal responsibility. All right. Everything triggers down. I could throw $500 million at the school budget, right? But if none of those schools, we have over 100 and something schools in Baltimore. If none of those schools are passing the basic academic test, then is money really the problem? We go back to leadership. People are not active. It goes back to my district again, right? Being involved into, okay, every student, where do they live? Do the students and the teacher have a relationship? Are they concentrating, giving every opportunity mentally? Let's start with mentally, because we live next to the capital of the world, DC. On our worst day, we will be okay. We'll be okay. So some way or another, we are gonna find funding. But are those kids mentally getting taken care of? Are we finding out what's going on in the household? Not to invent, because I'm a conservative, but to be more helpful, to make sure that the parents are involved. Now remember, teachers, it's a career. As the standards, you could say, just like we could say the cops should be more loving and the cops should be more this, a teacher should be more active and more concerned. These people still have jobs. Now, how they get jobs, that's different. We have to go back to the parenting to make sure that the learning of the kids are not just left to the teachers, because it's a group effort thing. I believe in, once again, community involvement, community empowerment. We could put $1 billion legislation on the book. It's already proven it could be non-effective. We could throw millions. I mean, the school system got billions of dollars, and our kids cannot even read on the standard level. Meanwhile, kids in Africa with no floors, no roof sometimes, and debts that they're making by themselves, are mathematical genius, are reading on the level like, good Lord. I know this. I'm not just saying numbers out there, because my mother is a missionary in Africa. And I was born in Africa, but I was raised in the United States of America. God bless America. So my whole family background is African. So I see the difference between the kids in Africa not having, yet when they grab something to read to me, Eugene, read this. I mean, the level of intelligence is way past what we have for this. And trust me, AC is not what they're worried about. So it's not the kids not having AC or the kids not having the proper equipment. It's the kids not giving the proper that opportunity to really find out what's their gift, what they're passionate about. They're not given the opportunity. When the kids come to school, automatically they're bringing the burden of the family with them. And a lot of people do not want to tap into that. They think just throwing money and throwing policy, that's what's going to do it. No. As Baltimore City Council in District 12, I'm going to change the game as it was written. I have nothing but high energy in me. I'm going to hit the ground. We'll talk to those teachers. I will be visiting schools. I will be visiting homes. And I will make sure that everybody has that opportunity, that when they are willing to learn, they are motivated to learn. Because once they're motivated to learn, that's when the world is open to them. So those are some of the things that I want to do. I don't want to just throw policy. We all are in a political circle, and we deal with numbers here to the moon. But it's time that we really start putting a human factor on everything that's going on. Not policy is there. Yeah, we introduce legislation to say, you know, every student should have $500 in their debt and this. But if the kid is not motivated to learn because nobody is paying attention to him not having a father at home, really affecting how he views the world, then we have a problem.
That's amazing. Want to wrap up here. We're here again with Eugene Boykai running for Baltimore City Council in District 12. Before we sign off, we've touched on education. We've touched on bringing back vibrant community and bringing business and investment back. But before we sign off here, is there any last thing that maybe we didn't touch on, but any last message, any last thing you want to leave with our viewers? And then also, how can District 12 residents and people around the state who want to get in touch with your campaign, how could they reach you?
Hi, my name is Eugene Boykai, and I'm running for Baltimore City Council District 12. My contact information on the web is friends of EUGENEBOIKAI. That's friends of EugeneBoycott.com. Friends of EugeneBoycott.com. If you're on Twitter, you can also reach me on Twitter at eBoycott. That's Twitter at eBoycott. Or if you're also on Facebook, you can look me up at Eugene Boycott. All right, and it's Eugene Boycott. Eugene Boycott for Baltimore City Council District 12. Let's make history, guys. All right, thank you, and blessings to all.
Well, thank you, Eugene, and thank you for everyone for watching Voice of Young Republicans on Voice of Republicans TV. Please join us next week and every week for a new episode right here on Voice of Republicans. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss an update on our social media. Thank you again to Christopher Anderson and Eugene Boykai, both candidates for Baltimore City Council, for joining us tonight. Have a good night.